The creditor. Now, if the debt you owe to me is secured by some kind of collateral, who controls the collateral? The creditor. It's all about control. Okay? The International. That interesting movie out right now called The International, where the CEO of the bank explains to this Interpol agent how it's not about the money you make from loans. That's not why banks loan money. In fact, they'll take a loss if in the process they're going to gain some kind of a security on the debtor. And this big international bank seems to be modeled after the Bank of International Disputes, which is the central bank. And, yeah, is what it's called in the movie, right?
No.
IBCC in the movie.
Okay, IBCC in the movie, okay. BCCI, okay.
Bank of Crooks.
So, basically, through exercising their control through trading of arms, and they would take a loss as a middleman on the trading of the arms with this nation that's buying the arms from them, because of the control they will be able to exert on the collateral securing that debt. Okay? So, we know that the United States, as well as all the states within the United States, all the cities, all the counties are all bankrupt. Now, the creditors for the United States, if you guys can mute on the phone, *6, or else I'm going to have to kill you. I mean, volume-wise.
By the way, the counties have just collapsed their court system in the state.
Okay, so if the international creditors have a security interest in the United States and all the collateral that the United States holds, all the collateral or property that the states hold, the cities, the counties, that means that the international creditors control the property. Remember we were talking about how what distinguishes a sovereign from someone who is not sovereign? And basically a sovereign is just someone who controls their property. That's it. So if the states, as well as the United States, no longer are in control of the property, they may be in possession of the property, but they are not in control of the property. The international creditors control. Okay? So if we want to change the condition that we're currently under, which is international bankruptcy, what is something we can do? Anyone have any ideas? Clear the debt off the books. Remember when the states attempted to secede from the Union in the late 1850s, they couldn't because they hadn't cleared their debts.
Now, what's very interesting about that statement, clearing the debt off the books, we have to understand that creditors control. And when you're in trusteeship, it is all about controlling everything. Ownership is a tool that was taught to consumers in order to give them the faith and belief that in a system that is governed under trusteeship, it was better for debtors to be in an ownership position. But ultimately, it made the debtors become the owners of the debt itself, forcing them into forever servitude. I'm going to read an excerpt from a book by Thomas Anderson, and the book is entitled Taking on the Banks. And this is what trustees have to keep in mind, because the public and private do not mix. So you want to listen intently from what I'm about to read. The Starsider says, the other day a friend of mine asked me to help her get back a $30 dishonor fee that the bank had charged her. I went into the bank with her and requested that the money be returned to her account. She was shaking, so I asked her why she was so nervous. when she should be angry that these crooks have stolen her hard-earned money. She suddenly gained perspective on the reality of the situation. I told the girl at the desk that we were here to request that money be returned to my friend's account. Initially, we were met with opposition. So I started asking questions. I asked if the bank had lost any money, or if anyone besides my friend had lost any money. I asked if they were punishing her by fining her in this manner. I asked if anyone had actually done any work that might warrant her to be charged a fee for their services, and if so, could we have an invoice? Needless to say, there were no answers to any of the questions except that the girl admitted the computer probably did all the work and that it was just policy. She asked us to take a seat while she spoke to the manager, who had disappeared into his office. She came out very flustered and said they would refund the money this time. My friend then asked, "What about all those other times? Obviously you can do it, you just don't want to." She said, "I told you we'll refund the money." To which I commented, "Big deal. What about the millions of other people around Australia that the banks steal from every day? It's no wonder the Commonwealth posted a $4.7 billion profit." The girl nearly broke down and cried. She was completely unprepared to hear the truth of where all the staff who proceeded to either shut themselves in their offices, left for lunch, or pretended to talk on their phones. There is one thing that banks do not like, and that is questions. It reminded me of John Carpenter's film, They Lived. That was when Ronnie Piper discovered the glasses that allow him to see the subliminal messages in the advertising posters and billboards that say things like, "Do not question authority and obey." Don't expect this process to be easy, and for the banking minions to be helpful, as you are challenging their very existence and belief system. It disturbs me whenever I get an email such as this to say that yet another bank has taken away property and money from people unlawfully, ignoring their request and acting however they choose to act, seemingly untouchable. And that is about time that we all put an end to this. It says here, "Hey Thomas, well, the bank screwed us over. They took money from an account that we left, only enough in for 1 week's worth of mortgages and paid credit cards and personal loans that we had used the process and had found a notary public to sign, etc. They completely ignored the paperwork and signed the judgment and just took the money out. I am assuming that by them doing this, they have recontracted us. This also left us in an overdraft and no money for the weekly repayments. And we got charged dishonor fees. Unbelievable. They just do what they please. At present, neither my husband or I are employed, so we have no income. And the bastards do this. You can help stop this from happening by refusing to do business with them. Take away your commercial energy from the system and stop being a debt slave. Better still, join together to form a class action against one of the top 4 banks and keep the question simple. In the end, there is only one question. Now, before you begin, I want to point out, and now that I encourage you to begin this process, before there is any issues such as collection agencies, call centers, credit report agencies, lawyers, default judgments, etc. get involved. The reason for this is simple. It is much better to approach it from a position of a plaintiff than a defendant. Or in other words, a creditor versus a debtor. Ultimately, a trustee than a beneficiary. Why is this important? Is the philosophy, the underlining toe, the ebb and flow of how commercial activities are conducted. We're under perception that we're thinking that we're paying for things when we're forming trusts. We form hundreds of trusts every day, or weekly rather. But we don't acknowledge these trusts because one of the definitions of a trust is that it's a secret. And even though you're unaware that one exists, that doesn't mean that you're not participating in it. And if a trust does exist and you can prove that it exists, you have the right to enforce the compelling aspect of those trustees that are performing in that agreement. Even in the beneficiary's position, you have rights that you can induce. I'm going to give you some definitions to research and look up in your spare time. And these definitions have a lot of meaning. I'm going to go through as many of them as I can. They're actually posted on www.bezelbay.com under the page where if you hit the More tab, you will come to where it says Civics class and you'll see definition. You hit that page and you'll see what I'm about to read. The first definition that everyone needs to have a clear idea of, especially if you are a trustee participating in commercial activities, is the word accounts. A-C-C-O-U-N-T, and in parentheses the word S or letter S. So you can look under Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition, and you also get a very interesting definition of the word account. You can also, if you really want to know what account really is, research UCC subsection 4-104 and UCC 9-106 for the proper interpretation of accounts. Also, while you're looking that up, you want to look up 44 agent, or in other words, you want to look up the word agent. Agent. You can also see that definition in a Black's Law 6th edition. This is a very important definition because you're going to be dealing with agents. Also, you need to be familiar with the word agreement. If you're unsure what an agreement is, please research. Look under Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition. Also look under UCC subsection 1-201, section 3. Artificial person is another definition. And what's ironic about the artificial persons is when you look at the definition under Black's Law 7th edition, you will learn that an artificial person has a very different perception than most think. Also, the word bailee. Artificial persons and bailee will go synonymously together when you look up what they mean in a Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. Also, there's the word beneficiary. You heard me make mention of a beneficiary in trust. That too can be researched and looked up under Black's Law 6th edition. A lot of folks say, well, I am a buyer. I'm a buyer in this commercial system. If you're using that term in your vocabulary, I will intrigue you to look up the word buyer under Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition. You just might be surprised at what a buyer is. When we're talking about debt, you will hear a lot of us talk about it in conversations of being able to cancel a debt. But most are very unfamiliar that the word cancel has a very impactful definition under the 6th edition Black's Law Dictionary. So please research the word cancel. And also cancellation. Also the word chargeback. See, you can also find that definition in the 6th editions. And you can also look up the word surety. Which brings us to chattel paper. Brother Bay, you mean to tell me that all these words are all connected? Of course they are. The word accounts, agent, agreement, or the